Alright, welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, Classic Legend Non-Classics. This is episode number 3082, and Doubleshot number 2976. Hopefully I won't get interrupted this time like the last time. That was by accident. Every time it's basically on purpose, this time that was by accident. So, first up we have is Kato Origins, Volume 1, Way of the Ninja. Yep, this contains... from Kato. This is basically about 6 issues, actually 5. It says, from the pages of Matt Wagner's Green Hornet Year 1. Yeah, it's a spin-off of that, and that's why you can tell basically it's Year 1 because of Green Hornet's mask. Because in other Green Hornet books he wore a down mask. Mostly put, this is basically about Kato's origin story. We have him first seen working alongside Green Hornet. A lot of this is set before he started working with Green Hornet, where he had this girl he met, and who was Korean. So, a little bit of like corruption per se. You have Kato basically doing stuff on his own, and you have stuff with the Black Beauty. Green Hornet does his own thing on the side. He's like a supporting character because he's not the star. It's all Kato. Yep. And he also ends up sleeping with the girl he rescues in the book. And, well, by the end, basically, he's back with Green Hornet. That's kind of what this book is. It's set in 1942, just after Pearl Harbor. And no, he's not Japanese. I think he's Chinese, just like the actor originally played it from the 60s for the show. Yeah, Juan Nunez has the artwork, and the artwork and the draw ink, the pencils and inks done by Colin Worley. The cover right here is done by Colton Worley. Great book. Love this book. Give this one a 10 out of 10. Book was a lot of fun. Next up is another pulp era book. We have the Rocketeer, the complete collection. Yep, and this contains the early Rocketeer stories from the 1980s. From the period of 1982 to 1984, 88, 89, and 1995. The stories were published as Star Slayer 1 through 3, Pacific Presents 1 through 2, Rocketeer Specialist number 1, Rocketeer Adventure Magazine 1 through 3. Now, these stories here were loosely based for the Rocketeer movie, which was released in around, it was early 90s, where it had Timothy Dalton as the main villain of the movie, as a actor who was an actual Nazi. And the movie was awesome. At one point the movie had the Nazis basically just attempting to invade Hollywood. So you had gangsters and police officers team up to basically fight the Nazis in one of the later scenes of the movie. It's awesome. Aside from, now, basically the Rocketeer's Clifford St. Ford, obviously. This, of course, is the first book we're reviewing from. You have his girlfriend here. We have Peabody, who was a character in the movie as well. He makes an appearance in here too. This book, his debut as well. Heck, even Timothy Dalton's henchman, who looks like Frankenstein's monster, he appears in one of the stories here too, which is awesome. And those of you curious, does the story explain where the heck gets the thing from? Not really. So you have, prior to the wrapping of World War II, in April, I think happened a year later in December. So, yeah, basically he gets chewed out, basically feeding a dog bacon. He goes out and so you have a guy get arrested and look at these plans. Of course, look at this plane. By the way, his plane he has in the movie is also in this comic as well. Yeah, the one with the retractable top. That's in here as well. Because Cliff set forward, he wants to become a pilot. He's a very good pilot. Of course, he does have a helmet he wears. And it just seems as though he just picks up the rocket pack by complete coincidence. Not exactly sure. They don't say where he got it from. It's just that it got made. And the movie was made by Howard Hughes. Yeah, and he puts it on and becomes basically classic noir, sci-fi. I love the font here. We have him, like in the movie, making his debut saving a pilot from crashing. Which, in the movie, was actually a clown, though he ends up saving him. Then we see his girlfriend, Betty. Which, yeah, Betty, like in the case of the movie, is this beautiful woman. And a lot of people are like just dropping their jaws the fact you have this pilot dating this beautiful woman. And the fact he's so faithful to her in the stories that I've read. He doesn't cheat on her. Nope. He is very faithful to her because he wants her only. Also, the way that in the comic, basically, you see him where he's like saying his pose like this. At times, he just has the thing completely covered up front. But, and by the way, he does carry a gun. And his outfit gets torn up a little bit. He briefly gets arrested, escapes. Clip manages to survive with the rocket pack. By the way, the rocket says the jetpack in the movie has a completely different design. Because look at the comic, it looks completely different. I mean, operates virtually the same. In the movie, it's the way they had it in the movie was like silver, like 2 silver cones on the side with like a middle thing. Here, has this weird futuristic design, which they appear in the movie. And of course, she has to fight kidnappers, like in the movie. No Nazis in here. And then, for some random reason, Betty decides to pose butt naked for a version of Playboy. Yes, where she is completely naked. Why in the world she is for? I don't remember what her occupation was in the movie. Just that she lived. All I knew was that she lived in a building where, because it was the 30s. Because not like nowadays where basically girlfriends live with their boyfriends. Back then, the girlfriends lived separately. The only way they lived together if they were married. Because that was society back then. And then, of course, you have, like, looking over clips of 4. And here's Betty, and she's butt naked. Looking up, basically, she censors herself, basically, with her gloves and shoes. We do see her rear end, but we don't see the front. And looking for a guy named Peavy. Yeah, it's Peabody. And then, of course, basically, he's of course, the guy with them, but this garage guy is like being very he's basically being a creep. The other guy apologizes, and then, of course, she gave him a towel, obviously, to cover herself up. Yeah, of course, yeah, looking for Peabody. Yeah, the original stories kind of wrap up. Now, there's no type of contest in this trade paperback of, like, where this stuff is. It's just that, basically, it's done by Dave Stevens. He is basically the writer. I think he's also the artist as well. And there's stuff here with Betty, and of course, he climbs up basically top of his plane. He fights off against an enemy pilot. Causes a crash. Of course, his uniform gets torn. In the movie, his uniform does not get torn at all. Nope. He doesn't end up in the hospital, he escapes. Then Peabody basically gets informed. Then Cliff takes out the airplane. Which, by the way, I appreciate the fact the movie actually kept the same design from the comic. Yep. So I think that the first few stories in here are from the Star Slayer and the other stories in here. Mm-hmm. And then we have the New York Adventure, which is probably from the magazine. It's this comic right here. Reading this is where I think a lot of the inspiration for the movie comes in. You have him basically hopping the plane, testing it out. Betty acting, wearing clothes this time, obviously. And of course, Cliff basically being very defensive over the fact that we have his producer basically putting the moves on his girlfriend. And then, of course, basically, the owner of the place basically is like, "Now take your thugs and leave before I throw it. Let go of who you think you are. The worst of those parasites is you. And pretty naive women. I know your secrets, Marco Vinch. Now leave." And yeah, Betty basically very concerning for him. I love how the artist basically draws Betty. She looks very sexy. Yeah. She's not constantly in distress, but she's basically like in distress sometimes, but not always. Cliff fights more bad guys. This is one named Tina here. At one point he fights, and then we have Lurch. Yeah, that's the guy's name. Yeah, remember this guy from the movie? Yep, this is the comic where he made his debut. So, yeah, him along with Cliff and Betty and Peabody. This is the only other character from the original Rocketeer stories that actually appeared in the movie. Oh, there was like some magic trick stuff, and then of course, basically, lots of fighting here. Really cool stuff here, and I love stories like this. This is fantastic. I give Rocketeer the complete adventure, the complete collection, complete adventures, a 10 out of 10. Oddly enough, Rocketeer hasn't had a live story featuring him, per se, and I think currently, I think he's the only pulp era hero not published by that was never published by Dynamite. Phantom was, yeah, he was, but Rocketeer, no, Rocketeer never went to Dynamite. Probably because even though he's set in that era, but the way the design the suit is and a lot of the other stuff, it's more like sci-fi pulp fiction, not superhero pulp fiction. But I'm sure for a fact that the writer himself probably took inspiration from Flash Gordon and Buck Rogers, basically, with the design of the suit. And probably also his love for the World War II era, like, of that time period. That's probably what it was. But it's mixed of sci-fi, adventure, some romance, because, of course, he has a love interest named Betty, who, like in the movie, played by a beautiful woman. Here, designed and very beautiful. And these are the original stories. My guess, I think, he must have restored these stories because these stories look really fantastic. The artwork in here is so good. Yeah. And can you believe that the first story in here came out in 1983, which was roughly 42 years ago? And mostly put, in case you're curious, what happened with the Rocketeer since these adventures wrapped up. He's just had a few miniseries here and there. I have not read all of them. There's Rocketeer Adventures 1 and 2, Cargo of Doom, Hollywood Horror, a TM miniseries for the Spirit. Mostly put all 4 miniseries, a lot of them published by IDW. It's like the Rocketeer probably was dormant for years and then was just picked up by IDW. And I love the Rocketeer movie. Yeah. Which I watched when I was younger. Still holds up. It's an absolute fantastic movie. Published by, made by Disney. The guy directed the first Captain America movie, Joe Johnson. He directed this movie. Yeah. So basically, like I said, it's Peavy, the Rocketeer himself, Lurch, and Betty. All Jenny. Oh, here is Jenny Blake, but yeah, she's virtually the same character. So, looking at basically the publication company here, based on what's publishing here, pretty much everything here is published by Pacific Comics, Eclipse, Comico, and Dark Horse. So, based on what's published here, so I'm guessing Star Slayer and Pacific Presents were basically were published by, based on the years, I'd say that was probably Pacific Comics. Eclipse probably did Rocketeer Special Edition. Comico did the Rocketeer magazine. And then my guess is that the last story in here, the magazine, the complete adventures. So they also include in this book the New York Adventure as well, which is from the magazine. That's from the 3-issue magazine series, which I thought was 4 issues. No, it was actually 3. And then, of course, now we have, well, IDW, who's published since then. So, okay, she's basically Betty is based upon, yeah, she's based on an actress named Brooke Stevens. Yeah. Now, do I think basically that Rocketeer could get basically another lease of life like another movie? I could definitely think so. Just keep the same flavor you have for the original movie. That's what I would suggest, anyways. But this book is fantastic. Give it a 10 out of 10. Yeah. And can you believe this one book basically covered roughly about 13 years worth of comics? But not many. It's like a few comics here and there. Yeah, so it's like some of the comics. So basically, the early stuff was published by Pacific Comics, and Cliff's published just a one shot, and then Chemico and Dark Horse published basically the rest. But oh, and here's something interesting though. Apparently, the creator wanted. This was an idea of the creator. He wanted to have the Rocketeer do a crossover with Golden Age Superman. I'm like, that would have been an excellent idea. That would have been fantastic. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I now of course I have been reading some comics from IDW. I've never read all of them per se. I've read some of them, but not all of them. It is interesting though the fact that IDW has a license to publish them now, but and they've kept publishing this book since 2009. Yeah, so for a better part of about, oh my gosh, like 15 years they've had this comic, and all they did Rocketeer is miniseries, sadly. But I love this character. I kind of wish basically that there was more stuff for him, but I would think World War II, plenty of stories I could tell. Heck, I would love a story him and his girlfriend get married. That would be something. But of course, at the time she would have to retire from whatever she's doing instead of, continuing her career. Yep. But yeah, that's particularly a particular view. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications, and do this like button. Well, next up, definitely is case closed. Okay, thanks for you. Bye.